I'm gonna call this one 60 years of being myopic and with deep regret, disappointment. It was terrible. But I take the blame, 100% blame. I don't blame my parents. I don't blame the optometrist. I think the minus lens is stupid, basically, as it is used. But I also realize it's inevitable because medical people don't think that way. They don't think as engineers. And it really is not their job. It's really the parents' job. So let's review. Some kids, for no good reason, do this. As Rafelson pointed out, they'll read at a normal 15 inches or so, and then they'll do this. And he said they did it when they're reading. And of course, the Chinese doing it at 3 inches or 4 inches, which is minus 10 diopters. That's a control system. You do that, the control system, it changes its refractive state from positive or 20/20 to minus or 20/60 and just keeps on going down. But if the parents don't stop this, the result is inevitable. It's a control system. If you're not an engineer, you're not going to understand it. And of course, Rafelson, he worked through this, became an optometrist in 1900, and he continued to write about it for 50 years. I did it myself. There was no good reason why I did it. And there's no good reason why any child will ever do that. But the inevitable result is the eye as a control system changes the refractive state as measured from plus to minus. Primitive Eskimos, no reading, refraction plus 1 diopter. All of them positive until they spend 12 years in school. And then 85% have a negative refractive state for the completely normal eye if you're thinking of the eye as a control system. Now, even so, I pretty much is aware of this in college and just very curiosity questions up until the submariner. And then it became clear that unless the submariner would wear a plus properly, he would not get out of it. So that's where we are now. And of course, as soon as age 68, I got cataract surgery. That got me to 20/60. And I figured the eye was dynamic even then, that I get a refractive state change from about minus 1 diopter plus a half diopter, self-measured. You'll find, or I find, that if the person understands things logically, then perhaps he'll do the right thing for himself. But if he doesn't understand it logically, he won't do anything. And I think that's true of Jake Steiner's followers. And the same thing with Dr. Johnson. If the person understands the eye's behavior logically as a control system, then when his refractive state changes from plus to minus and he monitors his Snellen, then when he gets down to 20/40 or 20/50, he will have a choice, which would be doing what I'm doing. But if he doesn't have that concept, no power on earth can change him, and he will remain at whatever value he's in now. Kids doing this. Optometrists said, oh, that has no effect, no proof, nothing. Unless you're design control systems and have broad-based understanding and a desire to understand it that way. So these kids at age 5 are like maybe 20/50 or so. And what any optometrist will do, They feel you need the best vision possible. So when you're 20/50, you'll get about a -2. I won't even argue about it. This is why I measure myself. Finally, I learned my lesson. Either I measure myself or there's no prevention. And that's true of Jake Steiner. Don't look at a Snellen dot and don't need test lenses. Just miraculously, you're going to improve your vision, but you'll never measure anything. That's nuts. You know, one of the major things I know after cataract surgery and experience with Rafelson, I realized the public won't respond. I wouldn't say brain dead, but it's close. So and children, you can't deal with them. Children are doing this, it's just too bad. Because it's up to parents to stop it. Then of course there's Rupa Wong stopping it. And she doesn't need a technical explanation. All she has to do is actually do it. So now, Lampsight and Dr. Johnson, incredible. I posted his remarks. And he's trying to persuade to expand your universe. And he has a little thing like that. But the person does not understand what's going on or why he's doing it, which means he's not going to do it. He doesn't really look at a Snellen to determine anything. So this is really why optometry can't help me, can't help anybody. Then he makes the remarks that in the tumbling ease, he had -5 diopters or something like that. And the retinoscope, there's no telling what you'll measure on a retinoscope because it's not objective, unless you make it. That's why all my measurements are personally made. And I think anybody in a prevention program should have that attitude of mind. They'll make the measurement himself. Otherwise, it's not an objective study. We can fight about that. When optometrists thought in 1900, everything was done objectively because you had test lenses and so forth. It was guided by an optometrist, but you actually made the measurements. Later on, they started using a retinoscope, which makes the whole thing questionable, since you're the one who have to make the measurements. So technically, either do it myself or nothing effective will ever be accomplished. So that's 60 years of self-induced myopia. Kids do it, it's terrible, but the parents must stop it. Of course, stopping it doesn't say, well, that's not medicine. We're not responsible for what happens when you let your kids do that. We deal with the consequences by putting the kid in a strong minus lens when he's 20/50. And then they'll say, but that has no effect. Minus lens is not the reason. Well, both of those things are the reason. And the -1 ends the possibility of prevention, in my judgment, which is why I do it myself. So I don't know where to go with this. It's up to you. People want to say, well, a medical person should do everything for me. And there's some things in our lives that won't work. It's never worked. So the optometrists think they're doing wonderful things by putting your kid into a -1 or -2 when you're still 20/40 and could have gotten yourself out of it. That does not change. That I did a newspaper clipping where the 8-year-old kid was doing this, and he gets down to 20/50. What happens? He became an ophthalmologist. He got a minus lens. And in his mind, that's a scientific solution. And then it gets worse. And then he doesn't think about, can I do something to not enter myopia or stay at 20/40? Their minds do not work that way. they say, what can I do to slow it down? Meaning he knows he's going down. And so let's use atropine to slow it down. I say that's crazy. The only thing that will prevent it is a reasonable mind and the fortitude to make your own measurements. And then you tell me you can't make your own measurements. And I say, I better damn well make the measurements or I don't succeed. So that was 60 years of being myopic and then 12 years of having 20/20 because I respect my eyes as dynamic control systems and I measure it that way. And since I'm an engineer measuring a control system, absolutely no medical concept is involved at all, other than my own personal resolve to keep my refractive state measured as positive and keep my 20/20 as long as I can. So that was Jacob Rafelson. That's engineering, and finally had cataract surgery to do it all myself. And if you're not prepared to do it all yourself when you're 20/40, you will not be successful. You have to think about what you want. To me, passing the DMV is success. Well, I do far better than that. But that's me as an engineer, staying out of myopia. Never the second time. The first time, that's my fault. Second time would have truly been my fault, but I didn't let it happen. So, add your own thoughts here. If you're an engineer designing control systems, maybe you'll understand. Even so, I can't say you're going to get out of it. I show you the math and statistics of kids doing that. A kid doing this and not stopped, and then you put a minus lens, goes down at 1 diopter per year. So before you get that first diopter, that's where you have to decide what's important in your life. And if prevention is not important when you're 20/50, it's too bad for you. I don't talk about slowing it down. I talk about staying out of it and accept the compromise of always passing the DMV test if you're lazy and don't want to do much about it. So add your own commentary. This is what, to me, science and facts are all about. And it's all up to you. Thank you, and add your own commentary.